How's it going, everybody? It's Matt Tomorrow here. I want to thank you guys for coming through. Waiting on the other people to join the panel. As you know, somebody leaked from the clerk of the Supreme Court, because I don't think it was Supreme Court justice who would do something like this, about the potential of the overturning of Roe v. Wade. I'm pretty sure you heard a lot of people talk about this. Most of them did not know what they were talking about. A lot of people probably started making these ubiquitous references about women coming back to the table or they might have to come back to the table. All complete nonsense. Make sure y'all hit the like button while coming in. So, like, the decision didn't really give her abortion rights. That's the way they present it, but that's not what happened in that Supreme Court case. What happened in that Supreme Court case, even though she wanted to have a private decision about abortion, it actually privatized the ability for the government to not interfere with the doctor patient relationship. That's what the Supreme Court um, gave them the right to do. That whatever decision that you made behind those closed doors in that doctor's office is between you and the doctor. Now, what you have to recognize is that if you wanted to just outlaw the medical procedure, that's a way that you go about doing that. But see, the problem with the right wing since 73 is that they wanted no, and I repeat, no abortion under any circumstances. And as you would see during every single election cycle, it's going on AJ Prophet, Being Pie Extraordinaire, Black Curls, Masculinity, AO. So what you've seen during most of the presidential cycles and during the midterm kind of debates, you would see older conservative man after older conservative man fall on their face when they ask about how ridiculous their abortion stance is. Because me, I'm pro life. If my daughter, if I had one, or cousin, or any female in my family were to have the unfortunate occurrence of getting raped by somebody and they end up getting pregnant, why on earth would I want to force this person to have this kid? Because, see, abortion is not about choosing. Abortion is forced birth. They're forced birth advocate under all circumstances. They're forced birth. Because if you have some common sense with the actual law, you can start putting stipulations on it. Like you can't use it for birth control. You can't use it past a certain time period. But they don't want any of those things. The only thing they want is the answer is no beyond a certain number of weeks, which is also a red herring because they want it stopped completely. So me, I want people to have a choice. I don't. I want the culture that they grow up in to decide their value system, not the government. Yes, I do know a bunch of people, for whatever reason, that their counterpart that they chose to deal with here decided to or their lady decided to have an abortion for whatever reason. But I think that the abortion issue is just a lack of equal protection on both sides. If you were the person who actually conceived the actual would be child in years with that person, there's no ramifications of why you can't truly be a part of the decision making process of whether that actual situation completes or not. I don't see why that is. So what you have is pretty much the forced birth advocates versus the people who want to have a little bit more choice in the matter. Like we understand this when it comes to firearms about choice. We understand this when it comes to food, when it comes about choice. But somehow when it comes to abortion, somehow we don't understand choice at all. What's going on, Mike? What's going on to go?
What's going on? Come on, T.
Hey, what's going on?
Yeah, I'll just explain the difference of what it was, and people don't understand that these people are forced birth advocates. They don't really care about healthcare at all. Like the same people who didn't want to sign up for the Affordable Care Act are the same people who are trying to make it look like they care about kids post birth. Insane.
Yeah, they don't care about kids post birth because look how many kids that we have here coming up. Poor. A lot of kids coming up poorly educated, sick, not not in good health. So it's but this is the politicization of of what we've been seeing. Especially coming from much of what we consider the conservatives or more the far right. The court, as we know, is politicized now. It's a political court. So here you have this issue going on when they could be looking at a lot of other things. But yes, Roe v. Wade, they're going to try to overturn it. But what I think we're going to see is going to be somewhat of a reaction against a lot of this. Seems like that's starting to happen a bit now. You're starting to hear people kind of wrangle, and I do suspect that we might see some issues, even inside some aspects of the conservative wing in itself, because I know many women there want choice as well. So that's kind of this is going to be a very interesting type of battle that we're going to see. Um, I think the timing is a little off. Looks like this. They might be able to push this forward, but it might give their opposition a little more motivation to come out and fight against them. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this evolves over the next few months.
Yeah. What's going on, Mike? Any words so far?
Yeah, I just find this to be interesting. The timing is actually perfect for them. It's a midterm, and when it's supposed to go live, it's around June, right? June 18th, from right around
Yeah.
Juneteenth, um, and it's in the middle of a hot season, right? You're entering summer. Protests are going to be all over the place. Demonstrations are going to be all over the place. This could backfire potentially on the party. And it could galvanize new movements within the party because you're going to have new voters that weren't around in 2020 could potentially show up now in 2022 and be the wild card.
Yeah. It's just that, and I have a very keen sense on who actually leaked this actual thing and for what reason they would want to leak it. We're going to get to that later on. But people have to understand that if they can mandate violating the Fourth Amendment to make sure that you're having whatever medical decisions that they want you to have, this can't be the party of small government who's actually allowing these type of things to happen. This is nuts. I mean, like, where does it go from abortion? Do they not want you to get lap band surgery because they think you ought to get a gym membership? Like, where does it end? Like, and how do you break the Fourth Amendment to look through somebody's medical records or give people access to go through somebody's medical records and post them online? Because that type of nonsense coming.
To me, it seems. I mean, I think they're trying to make a political move here, and I have to say, I'm a little bit confused as to what end that that they're trying to achieve on this. But only thing I can say is being a political animal and me looking at this from a political perspective, being that this has been the law of the land since 1973. Um, and people can say whatever they want about conservative women or liberal women or whatever, but when it comes to women's rights, they all seem to how would I say galvanize around the women's rights things from the left and from the right. They seem to all be in lockstep on that and looking at women moving forward. So that seems to be the bigger thing, the women's movement, which actually engenders the right and the left. So how are some of these judges here who are on the court, women on the court, going to justify this to women who are on their side, if you will, but not really siding with them? They're going to be looking kind of crazy trying to really push this forward. So this is going to be a very interesting fight, and how each party is going to deal with this is going to be very interesting. But they are giving definite energy to the left, of which if this is what they were not trying to do, and stop the left, if you will, or even the center left, because we're talking about centrists now, the center, which is a bigger problem, because now you have your centrists being caught up in the middle of this, who do want that choice, and why Roe versus Wade really came about. It was very much a medical, health care issue where legal abortion clinics and poor women and so forth didn't have access to that, and many were dying from that and all this. And you're going back to that again. You're looking at some heavy dynamics, some very heavy dynamics, and regardless of which side you're on, you're gonna have to watch this very closely, because this is going to be a very interesting fight, and I think they are going to ignite their opposition a lot more than they certainly wouldn't have had they not begun to move in this direction.
All right, so let me get to this 499 super chat by Straight Shooter. Thanks for coming through, man. How are these unwanted kids going to get an education when the conservatives keep voting against spending money on education? That's not the only thing that they're doing. They voted against the Medicaid expansion that would actually increase health care that wasn't even being paid for by them for the people within their state. I mean, infant mortality in Mississippi is like the worst in any developed country. Like, our stuff is like worse than third world countries. And it's like, we keep allowing these people to keep thinking that they're pro life. You're not. You just don't care about these issues. The only thing they want to do is have people force birth, and they try to weasel it into some responsibility based argument where these arguments are dead. I mean, all right, go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
No, I think you're bringing up a very good point, but I would also say that this has been in the works for the last maybe 50 years. The evangelicals, the conservatives of the Reagan era have been working on this for quite some time. And so with the emergence of Donald Trump, that gave them some kind of hope that they can get their agenda across the board, and get it accomplished. And now we're at the cusp of actually seeing this come to formation. And this is just the pilot test for the things to come. During the Trump administration, he defunded the EEOC. And in doing that, it's prevented them from actually processing the cases that would actually been beneficial for Black people, mostly, who had grievances filed against their employer for discrimination on the job or racism outright on the job. And so now you're starting to see this whole Roe v. Wade come in. This is almost, taking Iwo Jima or something like that, right? This is the next step. And I think once you go from here, what's next? Because CRT, the banning of books in the classroom, rewriting history in our face as we know it. This is it's not just about abortion. There's something more to this, and I think that we probably will figure it out before the end of this live stream.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct about that, Mike. We were talking about that a little earlier. Before that, this is definitely it's a floodgate to cut back not only on women's rights, if you want to talk about that, if you want to put abortion into that, into that box, if you will, it is women's rights, but it also, there's going to be a certain aspect of civil rights and other things that they definitely have been. Certainly, the conservatives have been whittling away at EEOC for sure, and your voting rights as well, um, and other rights. So they're definitely, this is an attack on rights, and they're trying to turn the clock back and move things back in an area where they're trying to establish their hegemony, and how that will ride out over these over this next year and move into the election cycle. I think it's going to be a tough sell in some ways. I think people are going to start to look at what's going on, and there's going to be some counter. There will be a counter to this. I will say that there will be a counter to this, but without question, this is definitely a move to open up the doors on other things. This is just not going to be strictly about just abortion rights. It's about other rights, as you've seen. They've had huge attacks on your voting rights, and keeping you from actually voting in certain types of ways. And I believe that they're going to continue to try to march very straightforward on that, and some other rights as well. But this is going to come down to more of a civil rights issue, and so forth. And this is about cutting us back to the fat meat. This is what this is about. This is definitely opening up the floodgates. They're definitely trying to open the floodgates on this.
Yeah, but the conservative movement has been held together via patchwork by the abortion issue. They were never supposed to repeal in any way, shape, form, or fashion abortion. There was no way you can get neocons who want to start war in the Middle East. There's no way you can get corporate America who wants tax cuts for rich people. There's no way that you can get the oil industry lobbyists and the climate deniers all on the same page. There's no way you can get all these people in place without the abortion issue, the Christian right. There's no way you can get all these people together without the abortion issue. If you take the abortion issue off the table, this could disintegrate the party.
I don't think, you see, to me, when I look at the Republicans, they're talking about this big sweep they're going to take and all of this. I have some big issues with that. The Republicans, as far as even higher level candidates, we're not just talking about senatorial, but people moving even for the White House, they've got nothing. They don't have anything. So they have what I would say very much now a very political court. There's no doubt now in our minds now. Certainly the Supreme Court is a political court. It definitely is that. But they don't have anything, and I think this is a way that they're looking to really galvanize and galvanize their movement. I really feel that this is what a lot of this is about, and cutting a lot of your rights back as they try to continue theirs, so they don't lose elections, cheat a lot of people in elections, and have a very small group maintaining power through some rather nefarious ways. I think that's really what we're really looking at, and people have to look at this very closely. So I'm as I said, I have to watch this very closely to see what the counter reaction to this is going to be. And from what I'm seeing right now on the news and listening, this is difficult. This has been the law of the land since '73. Since '73, this has been the law of the land. Turning this back is not going to be as easy as many think, and for this to be a way to open up the doors to attack many other rights, like Mike said, and like you said before, MOT, and like I believe, I think people are starting to look at this as well. And some of the conservatives, and I'm talking about some of your conservatives who move more center right, they're going to have issues with that. That's a big part of their of the party side. It's not all far right. You have to move from a centrist. The vicissitudes of the political agenda here in the United States does move from the center, and that's center right, center left. And that's always how that's been. And this is going to be a big issue there. This is going to be an issue there.
So I got a question. I got a question, a real legitimate question. With the COVID-19, okay. Let's say that they overturn the abortion thing, which is going to open up a whole can of worms for everything else. Okay, let's say they overturn that. The government can now search your medical records to see if your ass had the vaccine.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
they
mean,
can now search your medical records to see if you had the vaccine. Like, you see what this opened the door to? Whenever they can just search your medical records, fishing around for stuff. Like me, I've taken the vaccine. Why? I don't want to die with preventable shit. But all these other people who think that, oh, they just no. They took away the private decision making process between you and the actual medical provider. So now let's say that if you ain't got certain types of shots with now they can go down that road of fishing for stuff throughout your medical records. Like, this is what happens when you don't respect privacy rights, because this is a privacy right case. It was about abortion, but it was about privacy rights. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, well, you're actually bringing up an interesting point, but the government already knows that you didn't, when in regards to COVID, they already knew that who had the shot and who did not have the shot, who got tested and who did not get tested, because they kept a database of that, even, with a little bit opaque. But if your employer asked you, to provide a PCR test, you didn't provide it, you didn't have it. And if you didn't get vaccinated, you didn't show your card, you didn't have it.
It was going to check it against something. You are right about that. But I'm just saying, for the people who are on the right, who with this freedom stuff, who didn't take the vaccine, they could just look up this is an avenue for them to go actually out there and get this. And it's like, I think people are worried about punishing the idea that women are being punished more than the actual what the issue is actually about. Because a lot of people don't understand these issues, regardless of how simple it is, regardless of how much access to information that we have. I think people just regret the fact that this information is even out there. I mean, it's just that for right now, you got to understand that a lot of things are going out the window when this goes out the window. Because if they take the heel on this, they're going to be emboldened to do all types of stuff: affirmative action, getting rid of EEOC, strengthening, things for the cops to make sure you can't film them or challenge
domain.
Them. Yeah.
Eminent domain. They may end up taking your house and taking your land. And there's nothing you can do about it, because that's the rule of the land. It basically did that in Detroit. They were knocking down houses and just basically taking things from people.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, and so a lot of people are only looking at the punishing of the women or the retaliation aspect as if they directly benefit. A lot of people in this space were the same guys saying, F them kids, but now when it's time, to have this whole abortion talk, now it's like, oh, she should have it. The government should have this sort of overreach. But when it came to everything else, when it came to the guns specifically, the fear was Biden's going to come in here and take our guns, and we can't have that, right? But when it came to abortion, there was all about, big government overreach in that regard. So we see a lot of hypocrisy within these ideological thoughts that come from some of these guys.
Yes. So what we're looking at right now.
NLT.
And go on, So what we have right now is the actual idea that we're going to go through with this, because all the people who are celebrating are all the people who are not involved with the political process at all, if you want to look at it that way. They somehow benefited. Now, here's what didn't change. The family court didn't change. Okay? Your actual consequences from dealing with these people have not changed. So, and here's the other thing. It's going to turn to a states' rights issue. People are far more mobile now than there was in 1973. You could jump in a car or on Spirit Airlines and go damn near anywhere in the country. So it's going to be like, okay, well, you can't have it here, but you can go over here to this state or this city to have it here. So you really didn't get rid of anything. The only thing you've done is going to show everybody that women are one group of people. They're not on the left or they're on the right. They're women. Period.
And that's
So
the
go ahead,
whole
Tom.
centrist piece that we're talking about the women's movement, and women's rights and so forth. I was listening to Governor Hochul today for our state of New York, who said, "Hey, listen, if they do turn this over, New York is going to keep we're going to keep these rights in place, states' rights. We're going to have it here. So folks are going to be coming to New York. There are going to be other states that are going to be, I would call, which I'm sure they would call them now, sanctuary states where you can go and have this done. So that's what's going to happen. That I see going with this, and it's going to go right back to those who have the money and those who have the dollars to travel and move around and do this are going to have access to that. Who are we going to see? Who are going to have who are going to be affected more? Are certainly going to be those who are going to be less economic. If this does go through, going to be less economically fit to really to deal with that issue. So that's a whole that's a whole nother aspect that we're going to be looking at this. But as I was going to say before, you guys went over it. But as far as the states' rights, but large government impeding in and talking about conservatives, but yet here they are expanding and getting into all aspects of your life. Where is the conservatism in that? So you have a lot of people starting to look around. There's some real from a standpoint of real concepts that we're talking about with respect to conservatism or more liberalism. Where does this come down on the conservative side truly? So it's a whole nother question. There are a lot of real big issues here. So we're gonna have to watch this closely. But this is going to come out. This is a lot of this is going to be economics. So we're gonna see that aspect of this come up a lot more in this debate. So there's a lot here, and it's going to play very heavily in this political in this political season. So I don't know how you guys are seeing how this is going to play out politically in the midterms, and certainly it's going to play huge if it comes into the presidential elections in 2024. But this is going to really play heavy, and the states are going to various states are going to play a very heavy role in this, a heavy role than I think that they would have played even before this happened. That's just my take on it. I'm pretty much done on that. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So remember when people were talking about activist judges? Remember when people were talking about legislating from the bench? Remember all that? Overturning precedent, getting rid of decorum. These were all of the complaints that they fed to their people for the past 50 years. And whenever they got power, they just threw all their stuff out the window and did exactly what they wanted to do. You're gone. You're gone. You got some background. Yeah, but go ahead, Mike.
I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to chime in and say that the Affordable Care Act, recent updates covers maternal care. Basically, if you're enrolled in the ACA or Obamacare, it actually covers abortions or ultrasounds and other these sort of 10 diagnostics, for a woman. And so the idea that they can prevent you from doing something where the Affordable Care Act is protected under the 14th Amendment, and your patient health information or your protected health information, your PHI, is protected under the 4th Amendment. It seems dubious that this could actually pass and be constitutionalized into law when the two constitutional amendments, the 4th and the 14th, and the ACA, which is a civil rights perspective, covers all of this. It's meant to cover all Americans under this. I find it dubious that they would be able to get this passed. And I think that people who are kind of championing this are not really looking into this deeper than than you are in the going.
Yeah,
All right now.
ready to go.
No, I think I think Mike's right on the money there. That's something that we've looked at. It's right on the money there. So I don't really have a whole lot else to say. Like I said, I think this is more politics. This is we have a political court, and this is the game that these guys are playing. And boy, this is gonna be quite interesting to see how this shapes out. That's what I say.
Yeah, it's just that for the next portion of this, it's I mean, I think it's just too much of a symbolic victory that's going to backfire on it's just okay. So you're going to galvanize. Okay, so the only thing that they're up to now is the don't say gay bills and abortion within 2.5 minutes. That's the only thing that they've done. No infrastructure projects, no infrastructure spending, nothing. The younger evangelicals are not feeling this party. They're not. They're not. They're not as brainwashed. They have way more access to information than any other generation of evangelicals, and they're just not going along for the ride. I don't know how they think that they're going to be able to keep this moving forward because they have a shrinking base that's getting older. The younger people ain't feeling them, and the demographics are not moving in the direction that's going to be able to keep this going. So I don't understand how is this supposed to be something that was great for them, Mike? Do you understand how this was going to be great for them?
Well, anything that gives the what they consider to be the proverbial left a blow or a loss is seen as a victory for them. It's all symbolic. They can't really identify what the total outcome is going to be 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. They can only identify the symbolic nature of it, where they say, well, we really gave it to those guys. It's kind of like in the NFL. You usually see special teams. The ball gets punted, it comes down the field, it rolls down to the end zone, and they're all standing around it, and they're all excited. And I'm like, you didn't do anything. Yeah, but we got it down to the 1 yard line. Okay. You can go back to the bench. You can always you got to get off the field. The other team has to come on now. Special teams work is done now. And I think a lot of these guys look at this in the same way special teams look at this, and they say, well, we got it down to the 1 yard line. You guys got to start from the 1 yard line, and good job for us. And it's like, okay, you have a nice one, man. You have a good one, man.
Yeah. Like to go even further with your special teams analogy, it's kind of like the time has ran out on the clock. It ends on the punt, and they're watching the punt roll. It's like the game's over, dude. Like, why are you doing all these theatrics and all this stuff over a ball that you're not going to be able to play on? It's like they're watching the ball. It's like Black Crow said. They don't even know what they want to overturn. They just know the perception is the women are mad, therefore we win. Point for us. It's like, no, you have to actually read the case and see what it's about. You can't just wait for your actual biases to be satiated by people who just want to take advantage of this issue. Yeah, what's going on, Renaissance man?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Hey, what's up, panel? What's up, guys?
Yeah, what's going on?
What's going on, RM?
Nah, nothing much. Came up, saw you all were talking on this issue. The thing that will be interesting to me is what sort of precedents this accidentally sets. MOT being from the South, what happens when you get a lot of these legislators, conservatives, who come up with these laws or ideas that are very short-sighted in thought, and there's all this blowback and unintended consequences, and people end up looking stupid. I wonder what you're gonna see here. I know you touched on, hey, it's gonna galvanize people, send people to the polls. I think, as well as you're relitigating another situation from the past. I think it'll be interesting where Roberts comes down on this, because he is one who is very big on at least the legitimacy of the court in his eyes, and keeping it legitimate, keeping it non-politicized, and this is going to do nothing but basically signal that it is politicized, and you're going to signal that you basically think the Supreme Court had it wrong for the past 50, 60 years, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Correct. But he knows what party that he's a part of. He knows that this stuff pretty much started down this road from Bush v. Gore to here. That's when the court really went too far, was Bush v. Gore. That's when they went too far. That when they installed the president of the United States, that's when they went too far. The actual Citizens United case, making property equal to speech. That was another way too far moment for this court. So it's just that at this point, the court's legitimacy has been gone for a while, and
Yeah, yeah. Well, to people who follow it like us, I think this will actually open it up to like regular everyday people, like will actually see it.
especially when you came down to Obama not being allowed to seat his Supreme Court justice picks, but Trump got all of his Supreme Court justice picks. It delegitimizes the entire process. And when you have a spouse of a Supreme Court justice texting back and forth with the previous administration about overturning an election, I mean, the legitimacy of this court was gone out the window way before this. And that guy is still sitting on the court, even with this going on. So it's just that, like you said, it's going to bring it into regular people's hands. And it's, man, I just don't see how this is going to be a good thing for anybody.
The other thing too is I think it's going to create sort of watershed moments. Every you could argue every generation has that moment that inspires people to go become this, go get involved in this. This could be one of those moments. Inspiring sort of a lot of people to get involved, whether it be politically. I'm sure there will be, like I said, if this goes down the way it does, I'm sure there will be numerous people, you know, 80 years from now who we hear, saw this ruling come down and went and became a lawyer, or, got involved in this, got involved in that. These are some of those things that, like I said, one of those watershed moments that sort of define almost a generation.
Yeah, but they're like our conservative constitutional professors who we've not heard from yet about this issue because not overturning precedent, active, what I'm saying, making laws from the bench,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
activist judges, like all those arguments are put squarely on these people at this point. And let me make sure that people understand that what's actually going on here is that their decisions are not final until they produce the actual document. So I think that this is a trial balloon. They leaked it as a trial balloon to see what the backlash was going to be. It's in their best interest to see what the backlash is going to be.
Yeah, because they need it's a heat check.
Yeah, it is.
It's a heat check. And so to somebody who just mentioned in the chat, because this be an attempt to replace the millions of citizens who died from the coronavirus, they got a better chance of bringing in all those Ukrainians if that was going to be the case. Yeah. So it has nothing to do with COVID or anything like that. This has been worked on since the 70s. This is not something that just happened a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago. This is something that they've been working on for a very long time, and they were determined to get this through. The evangelicals, don't underestimate them. They got this yo-yo into office before, so they have a broader agenda to keep the culture war going. Because that's the only ammunition that they have left.
Yeah, no, that's 100% correct. The other thing, too, like you said, it's been a long time in the making. Like MOT, like you said, the amount of what significantly has changed? Because you have had the Supreme Court overturn precedents before. You know, Brown v. Board was a very famous example, overturning Plessy v. Ferguson and
Yeah.
separate but equal. But that was blatant. You literally had people. You had basic human rights. A whole group of people not even being recognized as citizens and having their rights, basically trampled on, and basically having the rest of the Constitution ignored for, what that ruling was in 1896 up until 1954.
Yeah.
So, damn near basically half a decade
A seven
of
a
uh,
seven to
half,
one decision.
Yeah.
basically half a decade of people's rights not being respected, and really, truth be told, on the international stage, the real embarrassment of that. But what has changed since 72 to now that's so significantly different?
But it was
Like,
72, like Nagon said, 4. 72, 7-2, 4. Now, what, we're going to be 7-2 against? What's going on here?
no, I'm just saying, like, what I mean, what people will say, what you have, what the pill and more forms of birth control, okay, but like,
Yeah.
still, the fundamental arguments, what has changed in the fundamental arguments? Like, are we going to argue we know more, like, about conception now than we did then? And it's just like I said, that's usually your basis of when you overturn something like that, is you have new information that literally would have affected the ruling, like scientific breakthrough or things like that, or just general change in opinion on topics. Nothing has changed on this.
Well, manosphere conservatives will tell you that the pullout method is a form of birth control as well. That's
And,
their that's their solution to this.
yeah, these are the same guys railing against child support too. So
The rhythm.
Yeah, I mean,
The rhythm. A lot of people
they
on job.
pulled out of the productivity-based conversation to focus on other things. So,
But,
yeah.
but
I had a professor in college, Mike, who said, made a joke. Yeah, what do you call people who use the rhythm method? Parents.
Oh my goodness.
yeah, that's
no,
where we at, man. Go ahead, Mike.
no, it's just that all of these guys, all of these conservatives, these manosphere conservatives, I hope they show up to the ballot because they weren't there last time. So to be supporting these sort of initiatives and these ideas, I don't even think they understand how the Supreme Court works. When we say 7-1, 6-3, 7-2, they think we're talking about like Manute Bowl or some shit like that. Like they don't really think about the long-term aspect of what the Supreme Court's role is supposed to be. It's supposed to be impartial, but in reality, it's been politicized, heavily politicized, like
Yeah,
you mentioned with Bush v. Gore, and the same ACB ruled on a case against a black man who felt that the work environment was hostile towards him because somebody called him a nigger. These are the same people who support the manosphere supports this person. And they also support anti-abortion bills.
But most of these guys who are talking don't even vote. Most of these guys who you see here doing all this talking are not registered. They don't even vote. They don't understand. That's why when you see a lot of these guys walking around doing a lot of screaming, they don't know the process. They don't understand it. If you were to even ask half of these people what are the three branches of the government, they couldn't even tell you that. So I'm not, we have to look at really politically, from those who are engaged and who understand the process as to what is really going on, and and we're looking at it from a standpoint of this is a test. They're definitely testing the waters here. They're seeing how far they can go. Are they ready to go? Can they go all out? And they might find that may not they may not be ready for all this. That folks may not be ready for all this as of yet. We'll have to see, but that's kind of where we are. I mean, that's why they're moving so heavily to cut your voting rights and so forth out because they want to be able to move certain things, but don't want you to come out to the polls. Okay, a lot of these guys have already eliminated themselves from the polls. They don't vote. But for those who do, this is what they're trying to pull off, and they're seeing how far they can go with this. So that's why this is going to be very interesting to watch for those who are engaged in the system, like myself, who understand the process intimately and who do vote routinely and are engaged in the system. We have to watch this very closely. We have to watch this very closely. I think they're going a bridge too far here, but let's see. This maybe their timing's right. I don't know. I'm not seeing it, but maybe their timing is right. I don't know. Go ahead, guys.
Yeah. Oh, okay, let's get to this question about Michael Merriweather. All right, this is why I don't think that's the issue. Because if they wanted the birth rates to be higher, they would remove the consequences of divorce, so that way people can stay together longer and have kids. Given that they're not even doing that, I don't think they're concerned that much
It,
about the birth rate. I just don't think that's the
it
case.
doesn't even work out because here's the thing: when you look at the numbers, it's already you're already too far over that hill. So if you look at the birth rate for or demographics of children who are being born now, the majority of children being born now in this country are non-white. The majority of kids in Gen Z are non-white. Like this is this is not something you're gonna just, oh well, we could just up the birth rate and it's gonna no, like that hill got crossed a while back. Like just the numbers, you don't have enough young people. Like literally the average age of American is like 38, I believe, 39, something around that. Um, and these boomers who have the largest boomers are really where you see the largest portion of the white population. I
Correct.
mean, not too many 60-year-old women are gonna be popping out babies. So
Yeah, I mean, without the consequences, and they don't have to do that to everybody. And they didn't, they was ahead, but they didn't stay ahead economically and educationally and all that kind of stuff. I mean, they just fell victim to what we fell victim to. They just fell victim to it a hell of a lot later. And like right now, I'm in what is this, Marshall, Illinois, and a lot of people that I know shouldn't be working at this damn Walmart, but they don't want to move. They don't want to do anything. They will do anything to stay within this environment, and that includes leaving themselves wide open to low ass wages to stay within this environment when they could just move somewhere else. But that's what you have when all the factories leave and all this kind of stuff. It's nuts.
It's a deflection, though, right? It's used as a smokescreen to obfuscate the failure of the state itself to maintain industrialization. And so, anything else to deflect from the idea that carrier is no longer in Indiana.
Yeah.
Anything to deflect from the idea that manufacturing jobs are coming back to the Rust Belt. It's just not happening. And so I don't know if these states want to go up against Amazon and Google and Microsoft and Apple and these other companies that have pledged earlier today that they will support their employees looking for an abortion up to $4,500. What are you going to do about that? You're going to go up against those companies? Those companies will pull out of your state and go move somewhere else. In fact, they'll just go move to a blue state because, it's just that much easier. And so I think if you look at a map of the United States right now, the 26 states that are proposing these anti-abortion bills and laws to be put in place, it looks like a map of the old Confederacy. And so we're at a turning point, I think, where we can probably say that, a civil war, so to speak, could break out, not at the firearm level and not at the kinetic level, but you could see a lot of bills and things and laws get passed where blue states and red states are not aligned with each other to even do business. I mean, they're just not compliant.
Yeah, and some of these states have just got to hold these other states in financial contempt. They're running a third world society, and they have to pretty much, pay for it. And it's like where we at here. It's like you said, depending on what state you're on, the whole trajectory of the state is moving a certain type of way based on politics, not even American values. It's nuts.
Well, to Michael Merriweather's point in the chat, he says, I don't know about that, Mike. Red states don't tax those businesses nearly as high as blue states. But I would argue that the brain power,
What?
well, that's his statement. I would argue that the brain power, the brain capital inside that red state can easily be exported out or found in a blue state. They don't necessarily need to be in that red state, from a tax abatement perspective, because blue states offer tremendous tax abatements. We saw that with New York in Amazon, and so
10 years.
yeah,
10 years.
and so it's not. I don't think the tax abatement issue or the taxation issue is the issue. I think that they don't really necessarily need Texas, to survive. They can go find somewhere else. They can potentially go to any of your New England states or tri-state area and get the same benefits. It's not. I mean, outside of weather, what other benefits does it provide?
That's exactly correct. And when you're looking at states that get abated nicely, uh, uh, like in New York, in New Jersey, and these other places, people are more willing to move in. They'll tend to pay their executives higher salaries, so they'll move into the more executive areas of those communities, and they'll set up shop real quick. You have to look at also very closely the unionization of what we see going on with some of these other big corporations that are kind of playing that game. That's another big piece. So if they come into your state, it's going to be unionized. It's going, it's not going to be as what one would say as conservative as others would like to see. But yet they're going to want those companies to come in and help to bring revenue, and they're going to abate them. So they're going to be playing that game just like the blue states. So when you hear these kind of statements of folks saying, "Oh, they don't tax," they don't understand business. They don't really grasp what's really going on, and how your corporations, in so many respects, are your government. They here, especially here in the West, America in particular, they're not grasping this that well. They don't understand it. But yet this is what's going on. That's why I think really to a large extent, what these guys are doing, this is a test that I think that they're starting to look at and say, wow, we may not win this thing the way we want. We may not. Now I could be going, I could be taking a step forward here, but yeah, I'm looking at this as maybe they're testing the waters, and maybe they're going to see maybe this is not the right time for this. Maybe we haven't done all we need to do to try to get this going yet, and that is to suppress much of your voting rights and so forth in very key states where you can stop a lot of this. I think that this is not all one separate thing. It's kind of together in an overall plan. I think that the far right has that may not work. That may not work. Just based on numbers and people being politically galvanized. That's what I have to say there. Because this is just not about abortion rights. This is about impinging on other rights that they're looking to subjugate as well.
All right. Let me answer this question. No, I mean, okay. So if you could compare Toyota in the South from like Toyota in like Georgetown, Kentucky, because I do a lot of freight for Toyota, just not in the South. I do it in Georgetown, Kentucky. If you look at the difference of where they are, and in a place like Ohio, like the Japanese people work in like all the executive jobs. That is never going to be touched by anybody who is English speaking. And all of the low value jobs go to the more American people. And that's the way all Toyota plants are run for the most part. I mean, an additional kicker in the South, you get to pay people a lot less, and you don't have to worry about them unionizing like other places. That's why they put a lot of these plants in the South too, because they're not worried about people unionizing. So what they're not getting in infrastructure, they're actually saving as little money as it is on actual not paying people. But you need an operational society to make all this stuff work. I don't think that it's benefiting them that much by just saving money by putting it in the South. I just don't. I'm not even sold that that's even a good idea, even though they do it.
Well, if you're going to build a new manufacturing hub, it's cheaper to build a new facility than it is to retool an old one. And so when they do start looking, they potentially look at these sort of viable land opportunities in these other areas. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Kia moves to Georgia, and I think Volkswagen's in Tennessee or something like that.
Yeah,
Rivian, they're moving to Georgia. Well, they're based in Illinois, but they're opening a plant in Georgia.
Yeah, because you get cheap land. That's
yeah,
just
yeah.
the
Way
bottom
cheaper.
line. It's just cheap land. The North doesn't have any land that's viable for the same cost. It's just not there.
You
And
don't have the
so,
population either. Like in the Midwest or the North, those populations are declining. So if you're not in a major urban center there, then you don't have even the population to support.
well, they're not the North. Anything above the Mason-Dixon line, they're not a manufacturing labor force. They're an intellectual brain capital,
Yeah, yeah.
force. They work at the Harvards, the MITs, the Lockheed Martins, and stuff like that, developing technology. They don't do labor, and so labor is in the South. But what I'm saying to this overarching point about companies leaving, the tech companies taking on the states when it comes to abortion. They could potentially put a lot of pressure on state. Well, I wouldn't say they could put a lot of pressure on them, but making statements like, "Hey, anybody who works for our organization who's looking to have an abortion, hey, we're going to fund it," and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That starts a domino effect. They don't say things like that unless they're going to really follow up on it. And I think Amazon has the wherewithal to actually do something like that. Google, Microsoft, Apple, Netflix, all the rest of them, they're gonna
But
follow up on these agendas that they plan on in regards to abortion. So,
oh no, you could definitely see corporate America. Like this guy Michael Merriweather said, that's my point about businesses. They will stay in red states. Here's the thing. A lot of these corporate things, like when you look at North Carolina, the whole situation about what was it, Don't Say Gay bill, or
voting
the
rights,
no,
remember?
no. This is the one with the NBA and the All-Star game a couple years back. Or maybe it wasn't the NBA, it was NCAA tournament in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Was it a gender bathroom situation?
yeah.
Yeah,
That's what it was.
yeah.
Yeah,
That was corporate pressure that basically that was a triangle basically in North Carolina, research triangle, the wealthiest part of the state, where all your education, your Dukes, your UNC, NC State, all of that. That was those people pushing back on that. When you start looking at these corporations and the initiatives they're putting in, as far as like uh, hiring women and promoting women and this and all that, like this is not something that like corporate America, Amazon, these big companies are trying to get involved with. They're definitely going to push back against it. I mean, people don't really know this, but things like pride and like support for gay rights, that's something that corporate America has been on since the 70s.
Yeah. No. When the head of Apple is waving his flag, they're going to take a strong position on that. But even when it comes to like voting rights, in the South, a lot of the same states that are proposing anti-abortion bills also are proposing stand your ground, also proposing voter restrictions. A lot of your organizations, the tech organizations, are saying, hey, our people, if your laws impact our employees on how they can, you know, um, uh, engage in the political process, we have a problem with that, and we can potentially take a little bit more action against you. We can be a little bit more aggressive. Um, we
Uh,
can't have our employees not being able to participate within the democratic process.
yeah. At the end of the day, people got to realize these major companies, they're not trying to go and have these stupid battles because at the end of the day, it doesn't benefit, doesn't make them money, doesn't help them be more competitive. That's what a lot of these people miss, and that's why you're seeing a growing divide. There's actually an article, I believe, in the Wall Street Journal about this, about the growing divide and separation of big business from the Republican Party. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to be in tech, you got to live in reality. 1 plus 1 has to equal 2. There's not really much room for conspiracy theories when you're trying to really innovate and outthink and outbuild the Chinese and other India emerging powers. There's really no room for this type of just craziness, and like that's why, despite what you're seeing here, you're seeing this seeing the far right get more and more separated from people in power, because I mean, at the end of the day, these people are not about to lose money behind a culture war like the rest of these people are, so they control somebody.
It's
I
a
mean,
centrist.
this is
It's a
all they got.
centrist game.
This is all they got. I mean, this is all they ever had was don't say gay and abortion bills. Like this is all you got. There is no infrastructure project that's going to put light rail anywhere. They don't want to spend any money at all. The only thing they want to do is give out tax cuts to rich corporations. That's all they want to do. It's nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah,
as
yeah.
those.
Okay. Look,
No, I was
go
gonna say,
rest.
someone was saying in the chat, Orlando, Florida is booming for new tech companies coming to the area. Yeah, but when those tech companies come, like I said, once again, like Mike was saying, there's only so much you can really hire out of the local population in some of these
Yeah.
places,
Seriously. Yeah.
because they don't have the intellectual they really haven't invested in the intellectual capital of their people. So when like things like that start booming, a lot of times you're going to see a lot of the workforce coming from other places, and it's going to change, and it's going to change the makeup of those areas. I mean, this is what people in Texas and like Arizona are complaining about, natives, with all these people moving from California. Those companies
Correct.
brought a ton of their workforce with them. They're like, we can only hire so many people in here, especially like y'all even said, like when you have an area that's really focused on manufacturing and low skilled jobs. It's like we can only hire maybe some people out of the universities, and that's maybe some, because maybe we can hire the top 10%, top 20% out of the class, but a lot of these people are going to relocate their own workforce.
With all this anti-abortion bill talk, going back to that, I think you're going to start to see a lot of blue states in the east and the north start proposing sanctuary cities for women in abortion.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the ultimate game changer, and a lot of these conservative states are going to have a brain drain, not a brain drain, but a maternal drain on their own economy, because whether they go to a clinic or they start going to Babies R Us to buy diapers and stuff like that, you're going to lose out either way, because nobody really wants to be around all that type of stuff. We have a lot of people in Boston who moved from the South to the North for that very reason, whether it's because they lost their land in Mississippi, the 1960s or the 50s, or now because the job prospects are better. Hurricane Katrina sent a lot of people up to the North, especially Boston was very hospitable to victims of that tragedy down there. And so
Out west too. Out west
yeah,
too.
yeah, Houston too. Those sort of places, Denver. I think a lot of these states, this culture war is going to backfire on them at the end of the day. And I'm not seeing how this is going to work out 5, 10, 15 years from now. I don't see how this benefits them at all.
Look at West Virginia. Like, look, literally, that's it. Like, literally, you basically, like I said, have no industry, coal mine dying, and the state is basically trying to, now their new pitch is they're trying to get remote workers to come to the state, and move there to like boost the tax base and basically turn the state around. But it's like, yeah, they still will not invest in their own population, and it's like, okay, they've even acknowledged, okay, we've ran this place backwards for so long that our only hope is, okay, we got to get outsiders to move to West Virginia to like actually have a tax base and like a forward moving economy. Like this is what these policies do. It's just regressive. And like I said, the people who are going to get out and move are going to, like Mike said, are going to get out and move, and you're really going to be left with a bunch of, like I said, a West Virginia type state that's completely backwards. And then at some point, someone's going to be trying to recruit more people to come and try to turn it around.
Look at Vermont.
What-
Vermont is
what's
giving
the-
away
well,
$10,000 for people to go live there and work remotely.
Yeah, I mean, I've dealt with that in the recruiting business where you've had people literally going to the state of Vermont and so forth and say 10 grand to come walk, to come walking in here. Living expenses, we will give you that to move in. That's your living expense. That'll get you an apartment, get you set up, and and get you to move, to come to the state because we don't even have enough people. This is the state of Vermont now. Don't have enough people to even to, to cover all the state jobs that they have.
Yeah,
So,
but
and then you're looking at a state like West Virginia that is for all practical purposes, a white third world country in America. That's what you're looking at. It's
It's, it
unbelievable.
is the ethno state that they
Talk
think
about
that they're going to create that's going to just blow up the
that's their,
straight. I'm
that's their
telling you, man. Like,
ethno
all right, man. All right. Hey.
no, and
that's their
thing
ethno state.
the
Right.
thing with Vermont though is at least Vermont at least has the issue of it's just an older population and they need more people to come there. Vermont
Oh,
still
way
has
older. Way
yeah,
older population.
that's
Ooh, way older.
that's the thing with Vermont. That's their issue. It's not a matter of like they have, I believe, some of the highest amount of colleges per capita in the United States. Like they actually invest in their population. It's just like I said, they need people there. West Virginia, on the other hand, it's like no, it's not a matter of hey. Wait, say again, Nagone?
No, I said they just don't have enough people living there. Their
Yeah,
situation, how that state is, and they're not as and they don't have a problem with education. In West Virginia, you have a certain number of the population that are illiterate, people who cannot
Yeah.
read, and we're not talking
Yeah,
about
that
black
too.
folks, we're talking about white people who have a difficult time reading. And that's one of the big issues that they've had, with literally coming over from coal to moving into some of the new, moving the coal to coming into some of the new into the newer jobs. A lot of these people don't have the reading levels, the educational levels to actually even forget about passing these exams, even trying to read them.
They don't
So
have the infrastructure to
No, they don't.
sustain that. I mean, they don't have clean drinking water, which is a big problem. Nobody's talking about it. I mean, we talk about Flint, we talk about Benton Harbor, and even Mississippi for that matter. But in West Virginia, the coal
Oh, yeah.
mining has seeped its way into the water table, and has poisoned the water. And so
right?
they have to have water, shuttled in by FEMA. I think it's FEMA that's shuttling that water in, by the caseload. People are taking baths with 16-ounce bottles of water. I mean, that's the ethno state that conservatives are looking to have, while Joe Manchin is running around, in his super yacht. I don't know,
Maserati.
man. Yeah, Maserati,
It,
Joe. So
it's
Yeah, but
obscene.
here's the other
It's
thing
actually
about that.
it's obscene. Sorry, go ahead,
And
Emma.
here's the other thing. Here's the other thing about that. They have like stacks of coal ash just right by the river, just in the wide open. It's been that way for
You can
years.
see it.
You can see
You can
it.
see it.
Mountains of this shit right by the water. Like,
And you have it also on these mountainsides where they've denuded where they've actually denuded some of the forest areas that are there. Denuded them. Denuded it. Stripped it. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. No one's talking about it. No one's talking about it, but yet they'll come here and talk about, this other stuff that, put black people on blast all over the place. It's unbelievable, some of the stuff that's going on, and no one's talking about it.
but
That's
I mean,
why I'm looking at.
basically,
Go ahead.
no, go ahead and finish, please.
No. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that West Virginia is basically America's Ukraine. There is nothing left. People are trapped in this sort of war-torn state. That doesn't really offer anything at this point. It won't offer anything in the next 10 years. I mean, right now it's a failed state. What's going to happen come 2025, 2030, when coal mining is basically all but empty? The industry is pretty much done. I don't know. It's just a failed state, and a lot of conservatives think that these sort of laws by ALEC, stand your ground, voter restrictions, anti-abortion, that's going to save the day. And they don't realize how far down the rabbit hole they've gone, with the culture war and how it has decimated all of their futures. All of their futures are basically have been vaporized, and their elected officials are running around, doing donuts on jet skis and stuff. So
No, you
Right.
you hit
So,
that right on the head, Mike. And once again, no one's talking about that. I mean, it's unbelievable. When I started looking at the Guardian doing a deep dive on the state of West Virginia, and this is a British company doing this. I was I have to say I consider myself to be informed, but I was not as well informed on that as I became after I started looking at those reports. It was shocking. It was unbelievable. This is actually even America. Unbelievable, unbelievable.
so who do y'all think? I mean, I have my idea about the leak. So, what is your idea about the leak, Mike? Who leaked it?
whoever wrote the bill, I think somebody wrote, whoever wrote it and then proposed it. They kept their own, they CC'd themselves or BCC'd themselves on the email and kept that for themselves. And that's pretty much how it goes. I think it's irrelevant who leaked it. I think it's the matter of they knew what they were doing when they did this, and the idea was to get a heat check as to what's the response going to be, and the response is mass demonstrations and outbursts. And looking at Elizabeth Warren, the sort of meltdown she had earlier today. Um, I think it's working to both sides' advantage. The liberal side, the left is having a panic, and the right is basking in joy, over symbolic victories.
I'll tell you who's going to have some heat behind this too if this goes through. Susan Collins.
Yeah.
Oh
She
shit!
she, I believe she
She
specifically
was the one
talked.
who asked the questions. She was the
Yeah,
one who asked the questions directly
and
about would they overturn it.
yep,
Yeah.
and has always painted herself as this moderate, concerned about women's rights and this and that. I have a feeling she will probably end up. I don't know when she's up for re-election, but I have a feeling she will be having some primary challenges, or she's going to end up retiring pretty soon. One of the two, if this goes down.
Wow. Yeah. You gone?
No, I mean, I'm kind of siding with Mike on this because, quite frankly, I don't think it's so super relevant who did it. I believe those who wrote it, those who pushed it. I definitely think some of it came from some of the far more right elements of the RNC. I believe that as well, because this is politics to a large extent. That's what I believe. But this is certainly, they can scream and have a symbolic victory, but the real victory that ultimately this has to take is, where is this going to end up in the polling? Where is this going to end up in the in the voting booths and electing their officials? That's what this is going to come down to. And I have deep questions whether or not that this was the best move for them right yet. I have questions about that right now, but still remain to be seen. But we'll see.
All right. So it looks like that's just where we're at with the conversation. You got anything else before we get up out of here, Renaissance Man or Nagon?
Yeah,
Nope.
I'm gonna drop
Thank
this this link in the chat real quick. Susan Collins, saying that she won't back a Supreme Court nominee hostile to Roe v. Wade, and says she doesn't think Gorsuch or Robinson or Roberts will overturn it. Just wanted to throw that out there. I'll drop it in the chat.
Like I said, it's still early, so they can see all this backlash and still change their mind. But for me, this is just a trial balloon, and it's good for them to actually see where it's at. And
I mean, I don't see,
yeah,
I don't see why, I don't even see why you have to know where it's at. To be honest with you, I mean, the polling on this stuff is what I've heard 70% are against this. So
Oof,
this is not something that's popular.
oof, yeah. I mean, but you know, the ideologues, man, they don't give a damn. So they're gonna do what they think is right, and damn the consequences. That's kind of how they always been. So, you got the last words, to go?
Thanks for inviting me up, MOT. Great conversation. Thanks.
All right, no problem. Franchise man, you got anything else before we get up out of here?
Great stream. Like I said, we will see. I think probably one of the more junior people, because they don't write all this stuff by themselves.
Mm.
Might have been responsible. I don't know who specifically. But yeah, I think definitely could have been a heat check. But also, could have just been someone doing just who's against this stuff and wants to get it out there. So we'll see when it comes out if people actually hold to their positions or not.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't think it was somebody on the left per se, but I do think the people on the right, because it's election season, they need to get a heat check and see where this stuff is at. And I don't think that nobody's going to jump the gun until they actually get the decision in hand. That's when you're going to see all the stuff going. You're not going to see it at this point with this heat check. But once it comes out that they done what they done, that's when you're going to start seeing the movement. So,
You already seen it. You already got people going outside the court protesting. I'm in D.C., so I was talking to a friend earlier. Said I was telling him, this thing is due sometime in June, late June. So I'm sure
yeah.
it will be a very hotly contested summer here and fall. Lots of protests, everything, because like I said, this is gonna galvanize a lot of people.
I just don't see what they get out of it, man. I don't. I mean, it's a symbolic victory. You're not getting rid of the issue. You're not doing anything, and you're galvanizing people that don't need to be galvanized. Hold on a second. The channel don't endorse any of this speech. Yeah. Yeah, we get what you're saying, Judge. All right, man. So I want to thank everybody for coming through. If you've been here for the first time, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We just came here to talk about the understanding the Roe versus Wade and the upcoming change to the political landscape, because this is going to change the political landscape. You're going to see that women are one group that are about their rights and not all this left right stuff that you're actually talking about. Because this actual privacy thing isn't going to get rid of the issue. You're just going to have people showing up with abortions are us in these large ass cities and suing for their right to be able to have their particular quote unquote business. It's not going to get rid of the issue. So I want to thank you guys for coming through. I'm the man of tomorrow. You guys have a really nice night.